Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films. And we just watched a film from the Orgone Archive, which ultimately came from the Mogul Brothers collection. And I don't know the correct pronunciation, but I think it's Paiute? I don't know. Paiute? I'm not sure. Anyways, it was made by a church mission which visited a specific reservation. And what's interesting about this film is I posted it online, and a woman found her grandmother in it, her grandparents. So it's exciting. This is why I like to digitize and then share the films online, because we get this community and people find themselves. Anyways, I am suffering from a Nashville hot chicken sandwich that I had, which most places, that are not in Nashville don't know the concept. But this restaurant in Raleigh, Beasley's, man, this is killing me. Woo! Sorry. Anyways, happy Indigenous People Day or Columbus Day. Some of you had the day off, and I appreciate you joining us. I'm going to air and showing Indigenous people films because they're actually more interesting than the films I have about Columbus, because it actually has footage of people, as opposed to recreations. Although right off the bat, I'm going to show you a film that is a recreation. This is Indian Family from Long Ago. I think this is on Encyclopedia Britannica. Enjoy.
Winter is over. Now many Sioux families leave their winter hunting grounds in the hills and go down to the plains to hunt the buffalo herds. Redhorn the hunter is father of this family. He rides first to protect them from enemies. Chatana, his son, has seen 11 summers, but Chatana is still too young to hunt. Yellow Flower is Chatana's sister. She walks with the women. Their mother is Oesida. She leads a horse which drags their teepee poles loaded with family goods. And grandmother walks last, keeping up with the youngest. They have journeyed many days, and at last they come to the land where the buffalo herds graze. At the new camping place, the women and girls put up the teepees. The teepee must face the east, braced against the strong wind from the west. Yellow Flower walks round and round. She ties the poles tight with a long strip of buffalo hide. Then they put the buffalo skin cover around the frame and peg it down to the ground. Small sticks fasten the front. A hole at the top will let the smoke out from the fire inside. Soon the camp is set up. While the women put up the teepees, some of the men go out to hunt food. On hills near the new camp might be rabbit or deer. They will bring enough meat until the buffalo hunt. Each day, Chatana must learn from his father the things a man must know. How the great spirit Wakantanka made all things, sky, earth, grass, and the buffalo. He hears stories of great hunters and warriors who were his ancestors. And he must know every skill of the hunter, how to track the running deer, when the prairie dogs come out of their holes, that hickory wood makes a strong bow, to use buffalo sinew for the bowstring, that flint makes good arrowheads to strike deep into the animal. Then he must learn to hit a target. In this way, Chatana practices for the day when he will be a hunter like his father, Redhorn. There is time for games, too. But even in games, the boys learn a man's work. Sometimes they play at hunting buffalo. Now they pretend to kill with little sticks. But when they become men, they will kill with arrows and the lance. They may forget these happy hours. Some days they play with a rawhide ball. It is a contest. Each tries to be best. And the games teach them to be skillful and quick, as hunters must be. The work of the camp is women's work. The girls learn from the women. When Yellowflower takes a husband, she too will make clothes from buffalo or deerskin, as her mother does. Dyed porcupine quills make the design. The thread is buffalo sinew. The awl is made of buffalo bone. Grandmother teaches a girl to fold stiff buffalo hide into boxes to carry dried meat. A box like this is called a parfleche. The women have painted bright designs on each parfleche. With kindness and love, the Sioux teach their children what they must learn. Today, the women are cooking rabbit meat. Yellowflower's mother uses a buffalo stomach filled with water. She heats the stones very hot. She puts the stones in the water to cook the meat. But rabbit meat or deer meat is not enough. There will be more meat after the buffalo hunt. After sundown, the chief sends a scout to search out the herd. The scout may look for many days. While they wait for the scout to return, Redhorn remembers other hunts, and he paints their story on his teepee. He cut the brushes from a buffalo's shoulder blade. His paints are mixed with glue from the scrapings of a buffalo hide. These are the stories of his life. The journeys to different camping places. The thundering herds they have followed. The swift horses he has ridden. Soon, perhaps, there will be a new exploit to add to these stories. While the men wait in camp, the women prepare for the time when they will have fresh meat and hides. They go to find berries to mix with the meat once it is dried. This will make the food called pemmican. They cut pegs to stake the skins down for scraping and drying. They set up cottonwood racks to dry the meat on. When these things are done, the women are ready. On the morning of the second day, the scout returns. Standing soldier, the crier, walks through the camp, calling out the hunters. And on this morning, Chatana the boy can ride his white horse to watch the hunt. He is old enough now to see how Redhorn strikes down his kill. Now they are close enough. Now they can hunt. Redhorn can give thanks. He has killed his buffalo. 2 other hunters have killed bulls, too. The cows grieve beside them. But the hunters have enough food now. There is buffalo for all in the camp. The herd has gone. It is safe for the women to skin the dead and cut up the meat. Back at the camp, Yellow Flower hangs the meat on the racks to dry in the sun and wind. Later, they will mix some of the dried meat with the berries to make pemmican. The hide is still soft and wet. It can be stretched out to dry. With pieces of buffalo horn, the women scrape off the shreds of meat. Later, they will tan the hide. Then they will be busy, using the tanned skin to repair the teepee, to make new moccasins and leggings. The work is hard for the women and girls. It is long, but they are happy, for there is enough for all. This night, they feast in the teepee to celebrate the hunt. Chatana's mother is proud of Redhorn. Redhorn tells stories of other hunts and dangers past. Soon, Chatana dreams, I too will sit as a great hunter before the fire. This night there is peace and feasting in the camp, but the plains make no promises to the Indians. In days to come, the buffalo will move on to new pastures. The family will need meat and skins for the long winter. They will move on to the place where all the families of the tribe gather for the big summer hunt. Again, the women must break camp and pack. Everything the family owns goes with them. The teepee cover, the poles, clothes, dried meat for the journey packed in parfleshes. All their goods loaded on the travois poles to be dragged by the horse. The family waits for the signal to move. Then all move on. Mother leading the first travois. Chatana the boy. Grandmother and Yellow Flower. This family and other families moving to follow the wandering herds, always following buffalo. For this was the way of the people who lived on the great western plains.
I'm still suffering from that hot chicken sandwich. Yeah. We're not showing films about Columbus today. Sorry. I'm sorry to everybody who didn't like that, but it's just kind of the deal. Anyways, so behind me, camera's like all wonky. Well, one, I'm wearing a brand new WFMU shirt, but behind me, I have a film set up on the scanner, and this one is got some serious emulsion damage, but it's interesting nonetheless. It was made by Centron Films. It's called Navajos of the 70s. So let's watch and enjoy.
In the beginning, there was only the land, vast, beautiful, and lonely. Then, according to Navajo mythology, first man and first woman ascended through a hole in the earth, emerging from the underworld into Dinah-ta, the land of the people, and they marked its outer reaches with 4 sacred mountains. Within these imaginary boundaries, the Navajos have ever since found peace for their souls. Beyond, only danger and unhappiness. The actual Navajo reservation is an area of approximately 25,000 square miles, mostly in northeastern Arizona, but spilling over into western New Mexico and an area somewhat larger than the state of West Virginia. On this land, the Navajos have lived for hundreds of uninterrupted years, with one tragic exception. From the beginning of the white man's intrusion into the Southwest, first by the Spanish, then by the Americans, the Navajos have made a fierce effort to maintain their own cultural way of life. Because of this desire to remain free and separate, they ran afoul of the United States Army, which rounded them up in 1864 and moved them eastward into New Mexico to a desolate place on the Staked Plains known as Bosque Redondo, the Round Grove. Here they languished and died for 5 long years before the federal government finally allowed them to return to their beloved Red Rock country. The Navajos named their ordeal the Long Walk, and have ever since reckoned all their dates from this climactic experience. When they returned from their captivity, they numbered less than 10,000. Yet today, with one of the highest birth rates in the world, their number has grown to nearly 130,000, by far the largest of America's remaining 230 Indian tribes. Today, the Navajos still live much as did their forefathers who survived the long walk home. The Navajo women still wear the traditional long fluted skirts and the brightly colored velveteen blouses, as did their grandmothers of long ago. The modern Navajo man, however, dresses much more in the style of the Western cowboy. Levi's, bright shirts, boots, and broad-brimmed hats. Most of the women and some of the men, especially the older ones, still wear their hair in the old-fashioned chignon, a vertical knot at the back of the head. It must be carefully combed with a yucca brush and wound tightly with a cloth band. It takes a good deal of time to fix the chignon properly. But then the Navajo women have both the time and the patience for such a job. Jewelry, worn by both men and women, even while doing chores, has a dual significance for the Navajo. First, turquoise is considered to be good medicine and good luck, and wearing it helps to ward off the evil spirits. Second, it represents a visible display of a Navajo's savings. In times of difficulty, jewelry can be put in pawn with the trader for needed hard cash, and later redeemed when times improve. For homes, most Navajos still use the one-roomed hogans of yesterday. octagonal huts built of cedar logs and covered with mud, together with the branch and leaf-covered summer hogan, which allows cool relief from the blazing heat. Around the edges of the reservation, where the white man exerts more influence on the Navajo, there are growing numbers of more conventional types of housing. Even an occasional house trailer is seen. But still, most of these houses would be considered substandard, in that nearly all lack electricity and running water, or water of any kind for that matter. For water, as it has been for countless centuries, is one of the most precious commodities on this arid reservation. Summer rain clouds well up during the afternoon, and the resulting thunderstorms produce pools of much-needed water for thirsty animals. After only a day or two in the intense heat and the low humidity, the water hole disappears, and all that remains is the dried and parched earth, and again the animals are thirsty. Water for human use is equally scarce. Some of the need is supplied by numerous natural springs found scattered over the reservation. For those Navajos living near such a source, the spring fills not only the need for drinking water, but also often serves as a community laundry where clothes are washed and people bathed. In an effort to solve the reservation's water problems, the Navajo Tribal Council is digging deep wells throughout the area to help supply those Indians not living near a natural source. Still, many Navajos must obtain their water from sources as far as 20 miles from their hogans. When the Spanish entered the Southwest, they brought with them sheep, goats, and horses, all of which were to have a profound effect upon the Navajo. In truth, they became cultural essentials, those things which men live by, and they radically changed the Navajo's way of life, converting them from nomads into shepherds, and to some extent, farmers. For the past 4 centuries, sheep, together with the sturdy little goats which thrive so well in this arid land, have formed the backbone of the Navajo economy, providing food, wool, and cash. Horses, which were for centuries of prime importance to the very survival of the Navajo, have now declined to a point where they are used mainly for tending sheep and for occasional pleasure purposes by Navajo children. The new beast of burden which has displaced the horse is the pickup truck, now such a common sight that it can properly be considered the universal sign of the Navajo reservation. They are simply everywhere. However, many of the older Indians, much too poor to afford a pickup, still use their teams and wagons to visit among their friends and neighbors. But when it is necessary to go to town for supplies or to attend a squaw dance, they will manage to obtain a ride with one of their more affluent neighbors who does own a pickup. Because of strong religious and spiritual attachments, this seemingly unproductive land is the only place on earth capable of furnishing nourishment for the Navajo soul. Whatever this land may do for the Navajo soul, it does little to help his physical health, as the extremely poor quality of the soil produces only meager, poor crops. Because of this inadequate, low-quality food, together with poor water and few modern sanitation methods, hospitals such as this one are kept busy treating the ills of the Navajos. Health conditions on the reservation are among some of the worst in the nation. However, with the acceptance by more and more Navajos of modern medical care, health improvement efforts are making good progress. Also, the Navajos are increasingly willing to accept and undergo modern dental treatment, an area long neglected by most Indians. At many of the reservation hospitals, schools are being conducted to train young Navajo women to become nurses and dental assistants. Navajo women seem to have a natural aptitude for nursing and excel in this type of work. In the recent past, most Indians relied upon the medicine man or singer to administer to their ills through drumming and chanting. But the medicine man is disappearing from the culture, as are many other old customs and rituals. Some families are attempting to retain some of the old ways, such as this puberty rite, where friends and relatives gather from all over the valley to help 14-year-old Glenda Jackson celebrate her coming to womanhood. On the last day of the 4-day ceremony, the women gather inside the summer hogan to help Glenda mix and prepare the huge ceremonial cake, while at the same time subjecting her to much good-natured kidding. Outside, the men dig a large hole, which is filled with firewood and burned, heating the surrounding earth to a high temperature, forming a natural oven. Right at sunset, the coals are removed and the pit is lined with wet corn husks, after which the cake batter is poured in by the buckets full. Next, Glenda performs the ancient ritual required by Navajo tradition. After which, she scatters the first handful of sacred cornmeal over the cake, and then is joined by family and friends in spreading the rest. The batter is then covered with another layer of husks, then covered with hot coals and allowed to bake all night. At the dawn's first light, following a night of prayer and song, the medicine man cuts and blesses the cake, after which Glenda will take a bite, signifying that now she has entered womanhood. Traditions such as this are becoming lost forever, because the young Navajos are unwilling to learn from their elders the involved and secret rituals of the past. None of the rituals are written down, because the Navajos do not have a written language. This eroding away of the old ways is but one of the problems facing today's Navajos. Two of the major problems facing the Navajos are employment and education. Education has been a difficult problem because of the vastness of the reservation and the sparsity of the population. Further complicating the problem is the fact that the language of the reservation traditionally has been the native Navajo tongue, with English used only by adults for dealing with the white man. Consequently, few children are able to speak more than a few words of English when they start to school, and in most cases their teachers speak little or no Navajo. In an effort to solve this problem, the Tribal Council has instigated a program to train Navajos to be teachers. Children will then have teachers who understand them culturally, who are able to speak their native tongue, and who can teach them English as a second language. Also, a program is underway to provide more day schools, so children can attend classes nearer their homes, thus eliminating the long bus trips each day as now required. Each year, over 3,000 teenagers graduate or leave school. Of these, only a little over a third find jobs on the reservation or its fringes. The rest must either remain at home unemployed or leave the reservation and seek work in the white man's society. Older Navajos face this same problem of too few jobs and too many people. The Tribal Council makes every effort to attract outside industry by granting 99-year leases and guaranteeing a large and willing labor pool. However, few companies have taken advantage of the opportunities, partly because of the remoteness of the reservation. This plant at Shiprock is one of the companies to the Navajos' extremely fine eye-hand coordination in building delicate electronic components. At Sawmill, Arizona, the Navajos themselves have built the world's largest lumber mill. A coal strip mining operation on Black Mesa, near Cayente, employs almost entirely Navajo labor. This operation alone brings millions of dollars annually into the Tribal Council treasury. Much of this money, together with royalties from gas and oil, are earmarked for the Tribal Educational Fund to provide college scholarships for Navajo youths. Still, even large operations such as this make only a small dent in the overall employment problem, as they are able to hire relatively few people. Because of this scarcity of jobs, nearly 75% of all Navajos must depend upon some form of welfare simply to survive. The history of the Navajo is that of a people who have for centuries relied upon their own customs and culture to provide the solutions to their problems. It remains so to this day. For the more the Navajo has learned of the white man and his society, the more convinced he has become of the worth of his own culture, and stronger has grown his desire to remain a separate people. A new awareness of identity and a new tribal pride has taken hold of the Navajo and is sweeping the reservation. Yet while the 20th century has brought many outward changes, the Navajo of today, driving his pickup truck across the rutted valley floor, is inwardly little changed from his great-grandfather, who made the long walk home a century ago.
It's Navajos of the 70s. Yeah, I guess I grew up in the 70s, and so there was a kind of a reemergence of interest in Native American culture, and it shows up in lots of different places culturally and in film. So Billy Jack was one example of me when I was a little kid watching it. My mom took me to see all the Billy Jack movies, except Billy Jack Goes to Washington. But we, I learned about about how mean white people were to Indians from that film. And then I saw Billy Jack exact revenge. It was really fascinating. Anyway, so film has not always been kind to the portrayal of Native Americans. I look to the Yale Chronicle of America series that I have shown things from in for Silent Movie Day, and yeah, it's either people in blackface or people in redface, and just not really portraying what was going on at the time in any accurate way whatsoever. So there were people that tried to capture parts of Indian culture. And certainly that last film was something that was contemporary. But, and the Paiute was an example of someone trying to capture what the life was like on a reservation. And I have films that kind of capture what what's happening among art and crafts amongst the Native Americans in different tribes across the United States. But there are some actually interesting resources. There's the American Indian Film Gallery, which has a collection of films that kind of document Native American tribes in all of the Americas, North and South. And this film is one that I actually have in my collection. It's called Injun Talk. And generally, Injun Talk, it doesn't seem like it would be very sympathetic, except that it is. It's trying to talk about Native Americans, how they communicate with sign language. And it was kind of written by Colonel Tim McCoy, who was the first consultant in many silent Western films, then became an on-screen figure in numerous Westerns. His work was notable because the Indians were always portrayed as sympathetic. And so this film, brought to us by Standard Oil, is kind of a fascinating looking at Native American Sign Language. This is Injun Talk.
This was the America of the Indian nations, a land of crystal-flowing streams, quiet forests, and vast plains. Here the Indian pursued a way of life that changed but little over centuries. Today there still exists a part of that America caught in our national parks and forests. On Indian reservations located in some of these parks, early life is still being followed by descendants of those first Americans. But the advantages of the modern world are attractive to these young people, just as they are to young people everywhere. As a result, the old culture already changed is swiftly disappearing. The motion picture you are about to see was made to preserve a part of the vanishing culture of the American Indian. As citizens and as oilmen, we are particularly interested in all forms of conservation. For example, in our exploration and drilling operations, vital to the expanding power needs of our economy, we make sure that the natural beauty of areas surrounding our sites remains undisturbed, that fish and wildlife are protected. Our scientists strive to develop new techniques to avoid waste, so that generations may be assured of the vital natural resource, oil, to meet their needs. Thus, through conservation, the natural resources of scenic beauty and abundant power can be used to enrich our lives and those of our children.
These are the mountains of our west, where the sun god seeks his slumber, where the west wind goes a-wooing, and the evil spirits lurk. Before the coming of the white man, this was the Indians' country. There were many tribes speaking different languages. The so-called Plains Indians were a nomadic people, always on the move. They followed the buffalo on his migrations, and as they moved back and forth across the plains, meeting different tribes, speaking different languages, it became necessary for them to have some sort of inter-tribal means of communication. And that is how the Indian Sign Language came about. Even today, when Indians of different tribes meet in council or in celebration, the old-timers continue to use this graceful language. Where the mountains break away to the rolling plains, in the land of the Blackfeet, such a powwow is in progress. Here, along the Two Medicine River, Indians from many of the Plains tribes have gathered to discuss their mutual problems, visit old friends, and keep alive the customs and traditions of their forefathers. One group is playing the ever-popular hand game, or stick game. They have two bones, one wrapped with colored yarn. The trick is to guess which hand holds the decorated one. Having the bones tries to confuse the Indian doing the guessing. One of the songs is to their friend the rabbit. They sing, "Rabbit, don't tell him. Rabbit, don't tell him." Dances go on day and night. The grass dance, owl dance or squaw dance, and the rabbit dance. Old chiefs sit apart, smoking the pipe in solemn council, trying to meet the new conditions, but mostly lost in nostalgia for the old days, when the buffalo, the elk, and the antelope were as thick as the grass on the prairie, while the women, as of old, take charge of the routine work of the camp. High Eagle is coming. High Eagle is coming.
Okay, Sosina. We were wondering whether you'd be over for the council.
You know, anytime you have a powwow, I'll come along if I possibly can.
There are many of your old friends here among these missing Indians. Some from Croat and Sioux from Pine Ridge. Perhaps the whole Shoshone from Wind River.
Good. I'll be glad to see them all.
Long time no see.
Right. Do you remember how our old friend Chief Goes in the Lodge used to greet someone he was fond of? He'd always say, "Long time no see him." But today, I see you, and the sun is in my heart. Everything is all right. Remember? Jack, it's good to see you.
Chief Whitecamp has asked me to tell these visiting Indians the story of the Big Ant, how some became known as Blackfeet and some were called Blood. I'll tell the story in the sign language, and you, my friend, will interpret for these young, educated Indians. Very few of them understand signs or know much about our old customs.
Yeah, maybe so, Uncle, but we haven't forgotten how to fight.
You certainly demonstrated that.
Still, it's too bad that many of the old traditions are slipping away from you young people. Take the sign language, for instance. Even though some of you may know the meaning of certain signs, their origin has been lost. Sign for courtship among the young people, for instance, made like that. Why? Because whenever a young man wanted to talk confidentially to a girl, he put his blanket around her that way and talked to her. Talk, as you know, is like that. But small talk, that's a whisper. So while he stood talking to her, the people of the village would walk past. They respected his privacy. That's how that sign came about. Now you take these visiting Indians, for instance, over here. Here's an Arapaho. You make the sign for him like that. Because years ago, the Arapahoes tattooed themselves on the chest, and the way they tattooed was to take porcupine quills or cactus needles, bind them together, and tattoo in the design on the chest. Now, the Arapahoes haven't tattooed, for many, many years, but that's still the sign for that fellow. And that's Sioux. Like this. Some people say that means cutthroats. There's one explanation that's even simpler than that. When the Sioux first came out onto the plains, he wore a long bead. He made a necklace of it. So one Indian meeting another said, "What you call him, that new Indian that's come out here?" "Well, how you speak him?" Says, "Don't know. But he wears this thing here, a necklace. And look at the different way they wear their hair. The Sioux and the Arapaho part the hair in the middle and wear it in two long braids. But the Blackfoot, like the Shoshone and the Crow, has two parts in his hair, one on either side. Then he roaches his forelock into a sort of pompadour. But in one respect, they're all alike. They all braid their scalp lock and wear it in a single braid behind. Then take the sign for the different animals. The dog, for instance, made like that. Because long before the Indians ever had horses, the dog dragged the travois. That's the mark of the two poles of the travois. Then these different animals that have horns and antlers, like the buffalo. The elk, spread antlers. Antelope only has two prongs. Well, then there's the sign for the white man. He always wore a hat. Bread. Because the Mexicans taught the southern Indians to make bread, then they passed it along to the northern tribes. And the Mexican, the sign for him, he was the first man they saw wearing a beard. As you know, many treaties is a pretty good sign talker. You watch his signs carefully, and I'll interpret for you as he tells his story.
Right here? Yes. Good. Now, I'll start.
Okay. Long time ago, my people had all this country. They were great in numbers. There were many lodges in our villages. We were a strong people, vigorous. We were happy. Then one year, now year is indicated by winter. Winter congealed, and the snow piled up. One winter, one year, the game was scarce, just here and there, scattered. The elk, and the antelope, and the buffalo, gone away. So the head chief, he's over. Big chief. He had the headmen called, summoned into council. And he told them, he called them here because the game was scarce, his people were hungry, and unless some decision was made, they might starve to death. Now hunger, this means to kill, but to kill in the direction of oneself means that they're going to be killed by hunger. So that unless they arrived at a decision, they might starve to death. Bearchild got up. Bearchild, you see the sign of the paws? Now the bear rears up. Bearchild, he got up. He said, all the Pagans, that being the sign for the Pagans, are hungry. My children, do not sleep at night. Now night covers over and day opens out. Is your negative? No. To sleep. At night, they sleep? No. But they cry. Now, I'm a mighty hunter. And mighty in this sense meaning I'm foremost. I'm a hunter, to look above. So he said, I hunt away ahead of all the others. Every little while, often, I get on my horse and I go hunting. But I see no buffalo. I see him not. So I give up, meaning that he has struck an object to which he cannot penetrate and he falls back. I give up and return to my teepee. My squaw, meaning the woman who sits beside me, and my children and grandchildren, because the grandparents carry the children on their shoulders very often, in the back, they weep when I come back to the teepee, and food I have not to give them. Buffalo meat, I give them no. So they weep. I say that we should move, meaning tearing down the teepees, loading up the travois, and moving camp. So then Wade and Water got up. Water, he's a fellow who walks in it, wades in water. He said, my children are hungry. In the past, we've been hungry. We've possessed it. We've had hunger. But we've survived. We've lived. We've come up. Now maybe so ahead, when the snow falls, gets deep in the mountains, in those mountain peaks, the elk, they'll be driven down. So I say, we stay here. The idea being that he plants his lance in the ground, and that's where he stays. Then Black Eagle got up. The eagle, that eagle, black. And he told them, he said, I've listened to my brother. That sign meaning that you nurse together. I've listened to my brothers. They've spoken straight from their hearts. Now, I'm an old man. I'm worried. My heart's all sort of disturbed. Now, our chief, he's a pretty wise fellow. See, that means smart, because a wolf or a coyote is the smartest animal they know. So our chief is like a wolf. He's smart. So let him make that big decision. That's the thing that has to be done. So the chief said, I have listened to my brothers. My heart is heavy. It's on the ground. The game, meaning the buffalo, your meat, is scarce. The people are hungry. So I have made the decision. I have definitely decided that we will separate. Fairchild, you take your band and move toward the rising sun. See, the sun comes up. Wait in water. You will take your band and move toward the setting sun. Black Eagle, your band will remain here. We'll all hunt for buffalo so that our women and children will eat and survive. They separated. The following spring, they reunited. Now, spring means winter is over. Winter, it's cold. It's over. It's cold as spinach. Snow has been piling up, and now it's all gone. The grass is coming up, all indicating spring. They came back. They met. They'd eaten well, just as though they were filled up to there. They were strong. Now this band returning from the east, they came across a country that had been all burned over, fire. And their moccasins and their legs were all black with soot and ashes. So the chief gave them the name. That is, he spoke to them, and they had it. He gave it to them, the name Blackfeet. When they returned, they came through a country that had berry patches in it. bushes are here, grass is down here, trees up here. So these bushes had little berries all over them, so they were berry patches. And they'd eaten them, and their faces were all smeared. It looked like blood. Blood, of course, coming from the nose. The same, parallel. So blood, the same, it looked like. So the big chief gave to that band the name Blood. Today, the Bloods, they live in that country, the other side of the Canadian border. Now, the Canadian border is indicated by a line that has monuments along it. They live on the other side, or they sit down there. But the Blackfeet, they live this side of the Two Medicine River. Now, medicine, two, and a river is water in a line. But in this case, it's water that ripples over stones. So it's the Two Medicine River. This side of, they sit down. They occupy that country. But they are all pagan. They're all the same people. Asked me if I couldn't stay here tonight. He said, tonight, the night cover's over, you see. The day opens out. Tonight, we're having a dance, a big one. We'll have a wolf dance, squaw dance, and they all dance in a circle. Bear dance. You stay here. Everybody will have a good time. We'll all mingle around together. So I told him, no, I couldn't do it. I was sorry. My heart was heavy. So heavy that it's on the ground. I've got to get on my horse, go way off, mountain, the other side of it, long ride. In the morning, when the sun comes up, I'll get on the train. I'm going away off to a far country. But when the winter is finished, the snow is all gone. The grass is coming up. It's spring again. I'll come back and we'll meet. We'll shake hands. We'll eat till we're filled up to there. Then we'll sit down, we'll load the pipe, and we'll smoke. And we'll have a good visit. Our hearts will be big. We'll be happy. Everything will be all right.
Reportedly, this is actual sign language for the tribes that they mentioned, but the whole thing is fictionalized. I mean, like, you know, it was shot in contemporary times in 1946, actually, and it's interesting. So Standard Oil sponsored this, and there was that little ad for Standard Oil saying, like, how, you know, this is how we are with nature and all this stuff. But, you know, traditionally oil companies were horrible to Native Americans. Actually, they're horrible to almost everybody except for shareholders. This is an interesting film. It's I hesitated showing it until I did a little bit more research, because Injun Talk, you know, is just like, what is this? But it is kind of this interesting artifact, and it was trying to educate people. People were interested in Native American cultures, and, you know, repeatedly wrote about it and talked about it and all this stuff. And so, you know, we try to celebrate and watch the films that are actually involving indigenous people, and not the ones that just have people in red face or people pretending like they're Native Americans. The Crying Indian is a perfect example of this. 1970s Crying Indian, you know, that PSA resonates with all of us, any of us that saw it, you know. But the actual Crying Indian actor was Italian. He was not Native American at all. So, but he had a long career of playing Native Americans, so it's kind of surprising. So, a couple of things. One, thank you so much for tuning in today. I know today was kind of different, but, you know, any opportunity for me to show films that are related to maybe to a specific subject, happy to do it. And so we got to watch some films we haven't seen before. If you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up, or if at least you like the concept of what we're doing. Maybe this particular show didn't resonate with you, but, you know, hit the thumbs up, subscribe. You can also go to our 24/7 online channel at avgeeks.com, which has other lunch shows that we've done in the past and other things that we've digitized. You can also go to patreon.com/avgeeks. And you can buy us coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks, where we will also spend that money on antacids to combat the insanely hot chicken sandwich that I just had. That made me cry. And like my face all went numb. Oh yeah, the two things. One, there's a documentary called Rumble, which is about Native Americans and popular music in the United States, and it is a phenomenal documentary. I totally recommend watching that. My wife and I also love on FX Reservation Dogs, which is kind of a sitcom about kids growing up on a reservation in contemporary times, and it starts off with it kind of, did I say Reservation Dogs? Yeah, Reservation Dogs, not Reservoir Dogs. But it kind of starts off a little like, well, I know where this is going, but then it veers into this amazing story, which is absolutely hilarious, incredibly irreverent, because there is an insane amount of cursing in this, so it's not a family film or family series, and then also really touching, poignant moments. So I really enjoy that, and I recommend it. And that and Rumble are two great contemporary things that celebrate and look at Native American culture. Anyway, so join us tomorrow where we watch more films from our collection. And as always, please rewind and love each other. I love you guys tuning in every day. And we will see you tomorrow. Everybody take care.